Hi, and welcome to Social Media Made Simple, the podcast when we inspire you to work smarter, not harder, and introduce you to amazing professionals from the social media world. And today I'm super excited to have Michele Evans with me, a community management superhero. Hi, Michele.
Hey, Elisa, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you doing?
Very, very good. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. Amazing. So, Michele, my first question is quite simple one. Like, how did you get into community management?
Okay, so this is going to sound a little bit like an X Factor story.
Ooh, I love that.
No singing. I mean, if I can, I will. But
Ooh, 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 ooh.
um, basically, when I was a baby, I was put up for adoption. And before that full process began, I was given a childminder. And the childminder I had literally was in the catchment of the community where I was born. And her whole purpose of becoming a childminder was because she wanted to help out the community that she was in, especially
Oh,
parents
wow.
that needed more help. So I was literally born into a family of community builders, especially my mum, the main community builder. My mum became my mum after 2 years for basically going through the realms or the ranks of being a childminder into an adopted foster parent to an adoption process. And I became another person because obviously I changed my last name, but my parents, my adopted parents, didn't want my birth parents to have to suffer. It wasn't their fault that they couldn't keep me. So they built a community for me, which included both of my parents. So
Oh,
I've
wow.
always, yeah, it's been something that I've only reflected on quite recently, that why do I love this job? Why does this not feel like a job to me? And going back in time, going through all the realms of different communities, from being in a family, making friendships, going to school, having after school clubs, extended education, finding different friends that way, moving towns, moving countries, moving relationships, everything I believe is successful based on the community you're in or you build. So I had this incredible experience. I was introduced to Jessica and Foti. Jessica and Foti are the founders of Growth Mentor, which is an edtech platform, especially basing around mentoring and anyone who is from an entrepreneur to a startup founder to a professional in an organization looking for support in growing their business or their skill set can go there and get help. And I met Jessica, who at the time I was an English language teacher and she was an English language teacher from the American side. And we were introduced, and Jessica did exactly what my mum did, which sounds crazy because Jessica's my friend. She's not family, she's my friend, she's not my mum. And I met Jessica after one Skype call and told her, like, hey, this is my situation. I'm currently in Indonesia. I have had experience in personal assistance, administration, data, but I need to learn marketing because I'm teaching English and I want to do better. She literally immersed me into her life. And I say it like that because this is the emotion I felt. She invited me into her group chats of other English language teachers, her friends that have also lived remotely or abroad, so they know what it's like to be an expat. And she invited me to her house in Greece. And I remember just being like, after all the travel I've done, trying to like get to know different cultures and work remotely, I have felt the strongest connection with this woman in Greece who I've never met before, and I'm going to risk it. Of course, I'd like been told, this isn't just random woman called
Yeah.
Jessica, like, come and live in my house, don't worry about it. But the next steps just sounds bizarre. I went to Greece. She picked me up from the airport, and we were in the car. And bear in mind, we had been speaking for like 4 or 5 months, so we knew a lot about each other and daily. Because Jessica also added me into her accountability groups. So these are all WhatsApp on the platform of WhatsApp. So I had teaching, general chat. What movies are you watching, and what exercise are you doing? So I'm now in the car with Jessica, and we go into her house, I meet her dog, Benji, and then I meet her husband, Foti. And it was just awesome. I was there, I stayed over for 2 nights. I met Jessica's mum. We were watching Killing Eve, and our friendship just blossomed, and it was great. So I was in Greece before the pandemic. I went back home to England, and then I came back to Greece and was still teaching English to a school in China. And before I knew it, I was also looking after Jessica's dog, Benji, only because I miss my dog. I have a dog called Brandy, and Benji and Jessica and Foti needed a trip. They needed to go away, and luckily before the pandemic they did. So I said I'll have Benji, and my community with teaching English was getting crazy because my school was in China, so my work hours tripled. Not joking, and it was quite difficult for my friendships and my family groups to talk about that because a
Yeah.
lot of people were losing their jobs. So I feel really bad. And I remember speaking to Jessica and saying, like, I don't have anyone that I can, sounds weird, I can't complain to because I can't complain. This is very lucky, but I'm exhausted. So Jessica and Froti were like, why don't you join our community? Join Growth Mentor and see if there's other people that are feeling the same as you because you can vent
Mm.
frustration. So I did. And before I knew it, I was fully a part of it in trying to provide accountability value. So I am not an entrepreneur. I have tried, it didn't work. I tried to be an English language business owner, but I hand on my heart, I tried in 2020, and for me it's not, I can help someone do it, I can't do it myself.
Yeah.
So when I first started in the community in terms of a role, an actual role, and being paid to be myself and just speak to people, get their stories, help them become more vulnerable, make them feel heard, seen, by onboarding calls to catch up sessions to um, I saw your review with this mentor. Can you let us know more about it? How did you find us? To what are your goals this week? Have you done them? And then the following week and
Mm.
month, do a KPI kind of breakdown of, you said you were going to do this, out of interest, why didn't that happen? And that was on a part-time basis because I was still teaching English part-time. And I realized, and it was a hard decision, but Greece wasn't where I was going to live for the rest of my days. So I moved to Spain, and I live in Spain now. I live in Sevilla, and I've been
Beautiful.
here. Yeah, it's beautiful. I've been here 3 years and 3 months, more or less. And when I moved, I was just so happy. And everything I described in terms of what my mum gave me to being able to be so versatile and literally just kind of go, adapt, be yourself, and then see who you meet out of it has been like a reoccurring theme in my life, that it has helped me be a digital nomad or a remote worker, however, whatever the trends are these days, someone that can kind of just leave, or
Yeah.
maybe a traitor, I don't know. It depends who believes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love England, I still love tea, but I want to always have a challenge of, who can I meet that I've never met before? What do they need help in? And how can I find that person the solution, the answer, the anything that can make them feel better? Because that's just part of what I feel. I feel so grateful for the life I have that I always try to give back. So again, I got into community management because I met a friend who has always only ever wanted to create a community, and the things in common that we have between me and Jessica are, we're both expats, or I don't know how you want to word that, but Jessica's American and she lives in Greece, and creating a replica community where you move other places is just making sure everyone around you is okay. And if you know the answer to something that person might suffer with,
Yes.
save them the time and struggle and just help them. So I was an accountability coach, the growth mentor, and received amazing feedback, very, very kind feedback from mentors and mentees. And Jessica and Foti said, okay, can you be part-time? Can you be our community manager?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is how I got into it.
Wow. What I mean, what a story. And I mean, it's such a gem. Well, first of all, thank you for like like showing your sort of belly and the vulnerability, and you're like sharing your whole story. Incredibly beautiful. But I think this is such a gem, because like sometimes um when you ask people like, oh, like, do you see purpose in your work, and they're like, yeah, oh yeah, I feel my purpose. But this is like, for me, this is such a beautiful example of how a purpose can shine through in such an unexpected way. So for me, incredibly inspiring. So now that I know this backstory, I'm not really surprised, because how we got introduced is, and I'm gonna quote, that you're you were the heart and soul of Growth Mentor and turned the platform into actual community. And now that I know the backstory, I can, like, I 100% believe that, like, no doubt. But um, can you share a little bit about how did that happen? How do you turn a platform into a community, and how do you build a community around the business?
Yes, I will try my best. Now, obviously, I have to continue being honest, because when I joined Growth Mentor, the bones were already laid out for what a community is for a business. And Growth Mentor has been my only, like I said earlier, paid experience in working as a community manager. But I am currently in 8 communities as a mentee, however you want to, a student, a learner, however you want to call it, where I understand that thanks to Growth Mentor and what I experience, the community of many businesses isn't usually started as a community and then a business comes out of it, from what I have seen anyway. And the question you've asked, I'll stick with that rather than kind of go, if I was not a business owner and I created a community and then I went from business, that's how I would do it. But kind of where I went. So if I was to start a community around building a business, definitely you just have to know exactly what product or service you're selling. And then
Mm,
from that, you do really need, if you haven't done already, idea validation, product market fit, and market research. Those 3 things need to be done, because those 3 go hand in hand with the responses and real life value of what your customer or user will use it for. In the case of the 8 communities I'm currently a part of, I am a mentee in each one, and I'm also a mentor on Growth Mentor. So, from what I have seen, the community aspect around a business is the bonus point. So,
mm-hmm.
I'll tell you one, for example. I am a paying customer of a community called Frozen to Fearless.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this community from Instagram in 2020 during the pandemic. I was in Greece, I was living alone, and I was very grateful because it allowed me the time to really look at myself inwards. I had no one to live with. It was just me and my thoughts, and I was ready to address the things I had avoided, such as debt, such as people pleasing, such as just always being hyper vigilant, like worrying something was going to
Yeah.
happen. I want to say that was the pandemic, but no, it's always kind of been that a part of my personality, and I wanted to know why. So, following Frozen to Fearless in 2020, I was seeing daily knowledge bombs on Instagram, and it was beautiful. It was helpful to me, but at that time, it wasn't a community. It was just a um, qualified psychologist posting how to stay calm and what to do if you need to calm down if you are a
Yeah.
hypersensitive person. So I actually went from following this lady to booking a call with a counseling service called Relationship Hero. And that was the very first community I'd been a part of prior to Growth Mentor. I'd never been in a community before other than um, um, internet chats and forums about different conversations like the
Yeah.
latest movie or things. or WebMD, just because why not? You Google at some point, right? So with Frozen to Fearless, they had a community, and it was on Facebook, and the whole service of Frozen. The whole service of Relationship Hero was one-to-one counseling sessions with qualified psychologists. So you would pay per minute to meet with a counselor, a psychologist, and they will tell you how you're feeling and why, and kind of give you CBT advice. And they had a community you could join, and I saw that there were no rules and regulations, there was no guidelines. It was just many people telling, my boyfriend's cheated on me, my girlfriend's left me, I don't know what to do. And I was amazed, because I was like, wow, this is vulnerable. So going back to when I said idea validation, product market fit, and market research, I feel that in that instance, the community that I saw based on the product and service they were offering was a good space. But you have to define what is the
Mm.
point of the community. Where, like, do you just go there to state, I have an issue, I've purchased this service, and I'm now in this community to talk about the problem that I have? Or do you align it to say, hi, my name's Michelle, I have a problem with a relationship, and the reason why I'm in this community is because I want to meet new friends, I want to learn how to navigate the way I see that relationship. So for any business that wants to start a community, you need to define what the purpose of the community is. And if there is going to be a vulnerability that high in terms of psychology, it does need to be manned, really carefully and safely.
Mm.
So if you are a business owner, you have a product such as a pen, and you want to create a community, how would you create one? You could use a free platform, because many people who buy an item like that, they will be using that to write, or I don't know, design something. So what are they
Yeah.
going to do with the finished product? With that community, you could ask them to take a picture, upload it, explain why they drew that, when did they draw it, what inspired them, create a conversation, and then that conversation becomes a thread, and then a thread shows active engagement, and then more of a drive, and then you can FOMO, fear of missing out, that preview into wherever you want to show that on socials, to say, hi, you're buying this pen, but with this pen, you get this support and this amount of friends, and this font, and there's all these things. So
Yeah.
a community isn't just to drive a sale, it's to show that you have invested your money and your time in something to resolve. You don't have to resolve that by yourself. Yes, you are paying for the service, and with this pen, now I can write how I've always wanted to. But did you feel alone? Do you feel alone now? Yeah, I do. Okay, we'll talk about it. Come and talk to us about it. Oh, it's okay, I'll talk to my friend. Okay, fine. Talk to your friend. Your friend hasn't gone through the same, so they might not respond in the way that you feel seen. So if you have a community, you'll have more of a support, and you'll get a response. Not guaranteed 100%, because what you demonstrate is what you get back usually. So that's my answer.
Yeah. And well, I think that's the as you were talking, I see like how much value add can a community give for a brand, but also how easily can it go sideways, because a gathering of people is not a community. So, which leads kind of to my next question, because there was a point in marketing when the buzzword of I think the previous year was, oh yeah, community, community. Everyone needs to have a community, but should every business have a community? And can every business have a community?
Mm. It reminds me of that advert. Is it Ferrari? Where they said I'm paraphrasing. We don't put adverts on TV because that's not where our customers are.
Mm.
Something like that. Like, why would we advertise? They're not going to be there. So, should every company have a community? Based on the fact that not every company has one, I'm going to say no. I really do think it depends on the vulnerability of the product or the service that you're trying to provide. from an education perspective, if I was a social media marketing company who work with universities and high schools, would it make sense that I would have a community for the students and parents of the high schools to show the next open days for those universities, the catchment period, the dates that you need to book? Do they want to meet with a professor that used to work at that university beforehand? Like if they, I would make a community for that. I mean, already when you're at school, university, there is a community, but if I was to have a business like that, if I was to be, I'm looking at my fridge, that's why I'm laughing. If I was to be a D2C wholesaler, and I was selling fridges, I don't think I'd want a community for fridges. So yeah, I'm literally just looking around. I sound so noob.
So it's,
But
yeah, it sounds really about the purpose. Like, think about primary about the purpose. And even with a product, like you named the counseling service, which has so much potential for a community, but if it's only a gathering of clients when there's no guidance, again, there's no purpose, and then things go sideways. But I've heard, I think it was someone from Jasper AI, where they have apparently a very dynamic community, and they said you can only build a community when your clients have something to talk about together. So if, I guess, people are incredibly passionate about their fridges, they could build a community, but that doesn't happen unless it's the fancy smeg fridge. I think maybe, the fancy smeg fridge could have a community when you post like vintage photos of your like fancy little fridge in your like pin-up
you're
costume.
right. You're right. And I guess maybe the life cycle, because how many fridges do you own in a lifetime? It shouldn't
Yeah,
be more than two. Oh, well, it depends how many
how good
kitchens.
the fridge is.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, that's a really interesting
and
idea.
and they said what fuels their community is because people generate stuff with AI, so they have this like excitement to share it, and then they start to exchange with each other like, oh, I did this, and have you tried this? So I think that's why also like Discord channels work so well, because people want to brag about something, in a way, get that nice feeling. So I recently did a sugar detox challenge,
Oh, wow, yeah.
and there was a Facebook group with that package, and I felt like, man, I don't really want to be in the group, like, but then I started to get so motivated because people started to post pictures of what they ate,
Right, right,
and
right.
everybody was so supportive, like, oh my gosh, this looks so delicious, like, yay, you go, like, something. So I said, like, oh my god, I want to post my breakfast. So I was there, you know but what it led to, that I started to make this breakfast like super nice and fancy, because I know I wanted to make a picture. And then because it was super nice and fancy, I was like so happy to have this like beautiful breakfast. So I was like overall happier, and I'm like, yeah, oh my gosh, like I fell for it so hard, so bad. But yes, like it works like this. If you have something that you can talk about, something that's personal and where other people can contribute to, I think that makes sense. But if you already have a community, um, what you should think about in terms of communication, and what strategies you found most effective.
So, um, I have also had a similar experience. During the pandemic, I found the Happy Body Plan. It's no longer existing, but it was a way to do exercise each day for those who struggled, and it was just 10 minutes a day. And in that 10 minutes, you would just kickstart your endorphins, you felt better, and there was like a scheduled time. So it would be 10 o'clock Monday. Whoever has this link, we're going to join, we're going to copy the person who's the leader, and then afterwards we're going to make our breakfast, and these are the calories and things like that. And it really worked, and that was on Facebook. And when being a part of that, I really enjoyed it because I was connected with other people at the same time in different time zones, and afterwards we would send pictures of what it was like. um, but the longer that I know this is more pandemic based, but just from experience, the longer that the pandemic went on, the less that everyone was able to see when they were free again, when they could go out,
Mm.
that it did make competition very negative. And in this particular community, many people were turning on each other and like, this is a fake photo, there's no way that's real, there's this. And
Ooh.
upon realizing, there was threads after threads after threads of just horrible malicious things, that the owner of the plan absolutely finished the project, deleted social media, and was like, I'm never doing that again. And I often think of her because she did help me mentally during such a hard time. And when I recently looked, because it was on my history, I was clearing my computer the other day, I went onto the Facebook group and there was no rules, there was no clear guidelines from the very beginning, which is, if you're going to be a part of this membership, please agree no self promotions to any business of any kind, no nasty language. We do not condone bullying or racism or any political views. Um, and also a reason for joining. So yes, you can come in, but this. So having an administrator or community manager man that, then you are already setting the community up for success, because you'll quickly see who is really wanting to be there or not. Of course, anyone can write anything and they can get in, but it's usually the first month of behavior. So usually most communities, if it's Facebook, Circle, Slack, Discord, wherever, there's probably more that I'm still not aware of, Reddit, school, places like that, SKOOL, sorry. The catchment, or the reason for joining, is really important. And when you first join a community, if you're not active, you could be seen as maybe a plant, or someone who just used it as a phrase I've been told many times before, used as a gym membership. It's new, it's shiny, it's a problem, but I'll get there when I want to and when I can. And they'll join and they'll just let it kind of air, which is something I can say from a community where it can get a little bit not negative, but when there is just silence when new people start, that's a big signal to the community creator that it's not that friendly, or there's too much going on that they just don't know what to say or share. So the
Or it's
introduction
not
part,
the tone.
precisely, the welcome
Yeah,
message.
yeah.
um,
So I think you touched on it a little bit, but have you personally like faced also conflict or like challenging situation while managing a community? And how do you navigate that? Because like, what do you take it on publicly? Do you take it offline? How do you? I guess again, probably it's easier with rules because then you can always like say like, hey guys, this is what you signed up for, right? But like,
sure,
what's your experience with that?
for sure. So I have to say, I have only ever encountered three moments where it was a non-normal day for me. I would never call these instances difficult or challenging, because for me it was someone just being honest and that's how they felt, and there was no disrespect or rudeness. It was fine. But what happened in this one instance was, um, in the community I was working at, there were many threads or many channels, and this is also really important. If you have a community, yes, have the rules and the guidelines, but also let them know what this is. When you have a community, there can be so much going on that no one knows how to navigate it. So the introduction and the welcome message, and also an onboarding call. So back to the example, there was a message from a customer stating that this wasn't their experience so far is not what they thought it would be, and they're not sure if they want to continue because they don't understand. And that the situation was, they tried to book a call to speak with someone, and they didn't read the guidelines that it can take up to 36 hours to 48, maybe more, depending on what day, when they booked it, when the mentor is free, when the professional was free, and they didn't understand because there was something not clear. And that's not them. That is my job to understand where did we not communicate that clearly. So, of course, act first. If they have responded that in a group setting, respond to that person, because there's nothing worse than anyone messaging in a group chat and just being ignored. For me, I was never given a service level agreement, but for me, from my working history, 24 hours and no message, that's a worry. And if it's 24 hours and no message and it's the weekend, that's an exception, because I'd clearly stated, I'm not here Saturday, Sunday, but Monday to Friday I am. If you need anything urgent, here's our live chat, which is what was eventually installed, depending on how many messages that you get in your community. So in this case, the customer messaged on a group full of maybe, I think, 2,000 people, and it said, look, I don't know if this is what I was looking for. As soon as I saw it, I messaged in that conversation, I'm DMing you now. So sorry for this experience. Let's work this out. So one, my managers know that I've seen it, I'm working on it. Two, my colleagues know they don't need to jump in. Three, the community know that we're taking this seriously. And four, it's not just being ignored, because there's nothing worse than someone giving feedback and then no one says anything, because what does that give the impression to the rest of anyone who might want to voice a question, a concern, or a compliment? So I DM'd, direct messaged the customer, and I said, I would love to speak with you. Do you have time today? And jumped on a call. And for me, that is how I deal with it, because when you are working with tools like a community without voice and without video, you don't know how they're feeling. So the tone of message needs to be appropriately conveyed, especially when they're voicing a situation. So act first, act promptly, listen with open ears, sympathize, empathize, um, reiterate the situation that they've said to you, so you clearly show that you understand what they're saying. Take responsibility, offer a solution, and basically just make sure that that isn't repeated again, or it's fed back to the product team and the wider team are aware of it, because it was a widely announced situation. So the team need to know, this is what I've done. That could then turn into a learning skill for the community manager, to be told, actually, management want it done this way. Maybe now we need to update our guidelines. Maybe now we need to create a new frequently asked question. Maybe now we need to do a video. Maybe now we need to compensate that customer, give them
For
a
something,
refund,
yeah.
a benefit. Thank you for being vulnerable. So that's just within the community. But I actually want to also say to not ignore other platforms. So if you imagine you have a product and you have a community, but don't forget there's Google, and there's also Trustpilot, and there's Reddit. So of course they're not the communities you're trying to infiltrate or take over, but word of mouth is so valuable. So check what the comments are and respond as well. If you want to be taken seriously, in my opinion, you do need to be honest with times when, oh look, we messed up, sorry, we need to do this.
Yeah, and
Here's
and kind of look, I think that's like a super important thing, just to not be in your bubble just because, oh, you have your community. Highly likely that in your community there are people that are loving your product. What about the other communities, right? So kind of looking at how you manage your reputation outside of that, that's a really good one. So yeah, I ask you about the challenges, but do you have like your favorite moment, like this moment that makes you go like from your community management times, like something
um
really memorable?
yeah, I have many. I think it was over a year ago. The company I was working at started offering team plans, and prior to that, it was one-on-one calls, one membership per person. But then they did a team plan where, you can invite your team and they have the same thing. And I was doing onboarding calls individually, but I spoke to one of the managers, and they said, "Can you meet with all my team at once?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So I did a group call and I explained everything, and it was really helpful to me, because I also realized that the attention was on me, but there was many questions they wanted to ask and they didn't. So I decided to offer individual calls just in case there's any follow-up questions. So I did a team call and then individual calls, and the individual calls helped me understand that individual calls first and then the team group, whoever is next, because maybe they're a new member of staff, they don't know how to ask a question. It's intimidating to present to 10 people how to use a product about getting help, especially when my question could be, what are you looking to speak to a mentor about? Not everyone wants to be vulnerable in front of their
Yeah.
colleagues. So
Especially when you just started, like, I don't know
yeah. What's your job?
how
I'm a
on earth I survived my probation period. I don't know.
precisely. So for me, I was like, oh, I feel like I just unlocked something. So when having the individual calls, the amount of gratitude I got, like, thank you so much for this. I felt comfortable to speak, but I didn't know how to ask because I don't want to ask a stupid question. It's like, no, these are not stupid questions. This is really helpful. And what I did with the teams, again, this was kind of not made up as you go along, but the team plan for me, I wanted to gamify it. And this was not a part of what I was asked to do, but I wanted to do it. So we had a team of 10 originally, and then the manager was so happy he actually increased it to 20 people. So at the time, I made two different Slack channels for this team, and the manager of all of them was in both. And I would post each week how many calls have been had and any call reviews that had been left from the professionals that they met with. I would then post that in their channels, and they would get like competitive. They'd be like, "Well, I did four." Like, "Oh, sorry, yes, you're right." It would just be to see, and just that constant change.
Ah,
It
smart
was
thing.
really nice. And then having check-in calls with them, they would message me and say, I think I know how to find what I'm looking for, but just in case, can you make sure I can find someone in XYZ on this time zone, and can help me with this particular role? So they would share with me, and I'd be like, oh, are you changing roles? Yes, I'm being promoted. They like that. It was
Wow.
they came and they started at something, and then the next thing, they're being promoted. Then after promotion, they're now building out another team, and they need funding, and they want to do. It's so nice. I
So you can really see them shine and grow. So
Yeah,
yeah, amazing.
it was really cool.
Um, so in terms of technology, you mentioned already like a couple of options. Like, what's your favorite one? Because like you mentioned, there's like Slack, Reddit, obviously, like we talked about Facebook groups. What's your personal favorite tool for managing communities?
Okay. I I like Slack. I don't love Slack. I like Slack. Um, I've used Slack the most, and the reason why I'm saying I like it and I'm not in love with it is that you can't schedule calls. You
Mm.
can't plan things. So if I was to agree to meet with someone, I would have to paste my Calendly and go from there. And then from there, I know that sounds so lazy, but I'm aware that Circle.io, has the community and then the different fields in between where you can post messages, schedule messages. Um, for every event that you create, you can have it sent direct to the calendar. So there's one less step for your community that has to add it. I mean, of course, if you're syncing Calendly to that, that's fine. But with Calendly, I can't say that today. If it's an unknown sender, you need to go to your spam, approve the sender, and then it's definitely in their calendar. So that's literally it. Slack is fantastic.
Well, Slack people, if you're listening, there's an opportunity for
Or
development.
or if you've recently done an update, sorry, I've been out.
Not as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
So kind of to wrap up the official segment of our conversation, um, if I would be now a business owner or a marketer, what free tips would you give me to start the community building journey?
Know who your target customer audience is at all
Mhm.
times. Never forget that. Never, ever, ever forget that. Even if I know who I no, please always remember the why, um, and the who. Once you know who and why, start to use. That sounds a horrible word. I hate that word. Start to base the reasons of why and who is in your community and why. Why are they there? What is it about you and your service offering that is having them there? And look after them, listen to them, and take the time to get to know them. I really want to shout out to Frozen to Fearless. Although I explained to you in the pandemic, it was just a Instagram post, but I'm part of Frozen to Fearless as a customer, and I have felt nothing but support since October last year. And we have weekly calls, monthly calls. We have um, closeout sessions where we dedicate our time to just working and focusing on what we need to do, setting goals. And the whole point of their community is to help you from feeling frozen in your career, in your life, in your area of whatever you need to overcome, to fearless. Why is this a problem for me? What can I do about it? And the whole community communicates their vulnerabilities. It's beautiful to me to see how many people
Yeah.
speak. So who your audience, why are they there? Listen to them, always listen to them, show that you're listening, even if that means creating a group. For example, I remember in Growth Mentor, Foti and Jessica did this very well, with the users that were always trying to convey constructive feedback for Growth Mentor. They became part of like I can't remember the name, like a customer board, a cab. I think it was a customer action board where they would constantly tell them, this is what I would like, this is what would be great. And it just makes your customer feel heard, so that if there is a new change, if there is a product launch, they are included, because these are people that have been your OGs since the very beginning. And if they were there from the beginning and you are constantly increasing your revenue and skill set and staff, remember those people that were there at the, started from the bottom, now we're here type, like, don't forget them. And communicate, show your community what you're working on. It doesn't have to be about the product, but if you are selling a service and you're struggling, tell them. Don't, obviously in terms of shares and stocks, don't say, I'm having a really hard time with my life, and I don't know if this business is going to be here next week. But being vulnerable to your own
Yeah.
community is so infectious. And again, shout out to Michaela Dunbar, who is Frozen to Fearless. It's fantastic. And I also, this is such a weird plug, I'm a part of it's not a plug, but it's just gratitude. I'm a part of a community in the city where I live, and this is nothing but friendship and vulnerability. All we have to do is be in a WhatsApp group and message about when we're available to meet. And when we meet, we do meditation and just moments of gratitude and just explaining what we're proud of, what we need help in. And from that comes conversations of, I've got a book, do you want to borrow it? I've got a friend
Yeah.
who needs help. And it just turns more into something that makes it nicer. And it always makes me think of Jessica, because my new friend Julia just happens to be another J. She is the community builder for the city that I live in. And you have to look after these people, because those who look after others need more help, because they are giving so much away all the time. So look after your community managers, listen to them. They have feedback, because they should be in that role, because they have empathy and they
Yeah.
have direct access to the voice of the customer. So if you don't have one already, create a way to capture their data that they capture from the customer, to turn that into a learning point, that the customer who shared that moment of vulnerability is heard, respected, listened to, and rewarded for that. Because if you
And,
if you
and
take
action
information,
on. Yeah.
so that is all I have to say.
Wow. So, like, thank you for giving this take, like, because there's like so much like empathy and compassion and just like care in your perspective on community management that gives me at least a very new perspective. Because for me it was like, yeah, okay, like you're answering people, like, right, but I think this like just opened up like a cosmos of thoughts right now for me. So at the very end, we do this with all our guests. It's the cat's meow, some personal questions. So, what's your favorite social media platform and why?
I don't know if I'm the only one, but for me, it's Pinterest. And the reason
Yeah.
why, I know, like
Are
the
you a millennial?
yes, I am. I don't have TikTok. I probably won't. I mean, I do have TikTok. I got it for a business reason, but I just no, it's too much. My brain is crazy. With Pinterest, there's noise, but it's organized and there's no competition. There's just to-do lists and creations and I
And
love it.
it's a beautiful mess. Yes.
I love it. But second is Instagram. Instagram for sure. And third, LinkedIn. And the reason why really they should both be at the top, but Pinterest is my guilty pleasure that whenever I have a hard day, I'm like, tomorrow you have Pinterest later. It's like with Instagram, I like to check in with my family, see what they're doing, pictures, seeing my friends, how they're feeling. And LinkedIn, obviously, from a business perspective, it's good to see trends. All of the mentors that I've got to know at Growth Mentor are fantastic. Even the customers now to see what they have learned and leveraged from the mentors. I love seeing their promotions and their content, and it's great. And also the fact that I have seen the community that I do have on LinkedIn, like years ago I had a fear of LinkedIn. I hated it. I was like, I'm nowhere near up there with the big dogs. Like, what have I got to say, really? And then I changed my mind. It was like, it's not about what I say, it's who I support and how I encourage. So for me, LinkedIn is a community management playground. If you are starting out as a community manager and you're not sure if you are, and you're not sure if this is what you really want to do, start to play on LinkedIn and find the industries that you support, the professionals that speak the same kind of values that you hold, and start just liking them and saying thank you because it does go a long way for them in the long term. And obviously, I really appreciate now that LinkedIn does make it feel. I don't know if I'm the only one here. It does kind of feel trendy now to be vulnerable on LinkedIn, whereas before
I've
it was like,
seen
I'm
more and more of this. Maybe because people are very tired of the LinkedIn used to be in terms of, oh my God, this is like my super successful journey.
yeah, yeah,
And and this has been, I guess, a motive throughout my other conversations here in the podcast that like this is the word I cannot say. You cannot say currently. I cannot say being authentic. That's
yes,
nemesis word. Being authentic is something that people are really looking forward to, really looking at. So I think also supporting people who show that will shape the community that LinkedIn becomes, because I do see it becoming more and more community based, as opposed to just the, I don't know, wall of your personal success.
precisely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. I'm super excited to ask you. What do you watch, listen to, or read right now that you want to share with our listeners?
Okay. I'm actually really proud of this, although I think how I'm gonna say it is just gonna sound so weird. I have been a remote worker for many years and I work at home. And I have a TV that has a platform called YouTube. And oh, actually, no, I do know. My best friend here, Hinia, she suggested that I watch the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. And I was like, I don't understand what is going on. So she said, don't worry, there's a YouTuber and they explain everything. And I was like, oh, wow. So I am a fan of Emily D. Baker, who is a retired, well, an ex prosecutor who breaks down the law on live streams whilst the
Wow.
cases are happening. And she's so funny, she's awesome, she has created this incredible community by just explaining things and just being herself and like what is he like what okay, they said this and this makes sense, and it's not for everyone, but I really enjoy it because I get to learn about the law, even though
Wow.
It's American law. I mean, I know it's unusual, but she is my community building, cheerleading influencer. I like how she does it. Of course they're sending her messages and super chats with money, and she's streaming, so she's making money. And my brain can't understand how people make money on YouTube. I know I can
It's
simply
a
chat
thing.
into it, but yeah, I'm like, how is this? This is crazy. So yeah, that's who I watch on YouTube. Yeah.
So I think also you're like the awesome person to ask this, but what was the best advice, best career advice you ever received?
This doesn't sound like career advice, but for me, it is so important because it's more than just about a job. But the advice I was once given was leave them better than when you found them. So whoever you
Ooh.
make them feel better than when they first arrived. And I know that is like dangerous for people pleasers because it's like, I'm trying not to be one, but I think it's really important that anyone you meet, you do make them feel seen and supported, no matter what that job is, because everyone has. Oh, yeah, that's my advice, and it's really helped.
Wow, such a beautiful advice. Okay, and the question of all questions: cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Team dogs. Yay!
Oh, I, I've said that so hesitantly because my neighbor has just got a cat, and the cat likes to talk at like 2 o'clock in the morning until I don't know, like 5. And it's not the cat thing. It's obviously they're hungry, but I have always been a dog fan. I have a dog in my life. Her name is Brandy. She is actually living in England with my sister. And I also have a Spanish dog, and his name is Fito. But he's not my dog. He's my boyfriend's dog. But when he and I are together, he's my dog. So yeah, dogs for sure.
There's
And you, do you have a
always.
dog?
I don't have a dog, but I actually am now a pet sitter for many of my friends. So I don't have a dog, but since like the last month, I have been like pet sitting 3 different dogs. So it almost feels like I do.
I love it. When I would pet sit for Jessica and Foti, their dog is Benji, and Benji is a human. It's so rewarding. I love it. If I could do it here, I would. I've actually asked a few times of my friends, but they're like, no, it's okay.
No, no. So yeah, no, I love it. But we do have some cat people here at Napoleon Cat, obviously, but Team Dogs is going strong. Michelle, thank you so much for this incredibly inspiring conversation. So, where do you see yourself next in your career? Where can people find you? What's coming up next for you?
So, before I leap into my next community, I am doing some studying of coding. I'm actually learning with a company called She Codes, which has been referred to me a few times. So I'm learning the very basic of HTML, CSS, Java, sorry, Spanish in me. And I am also teaching English to professionals and just people in general all over the world until I find my community. The next community, the community that I believe I'm ready for next would be more centered around data. Um, I would love to be able to learn the language of data and help that translate into having the community in a safe space in being a person. So how can I meet that middle? I want a challenge, and yeah, I'm ready, nearly ready. I just need more.
Wow, I would love to be there to witness you managing like a coding community. So, you can be found on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
So if there are any amazing coding communities, Michelle's out there. Thank you so much. Sending you lots of love and thank you. And for our listeners, if you have enjoyed this conversation, obviously follow us for more. And until then, have a terrific time. Meow.
Thank you.